something about that time frame where like movies can be super zany or weird, but like in the best of ways. The only thing that threw me off originally was like I don't think the name, they should have named it something different. Like Sneakers, all I think of is shoes. The second that I hear the name of this movie, I don't think of like spies or anything like that. I get sneakers because they're sneaking around.
Sneaky
all
people,
the time.
sneaky snakes.
Yeah, they could have named it Sneaky Snake.
Started. Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
And that is Kyle. Kyle, we're back for episode number 47. I can't believe you haven't seen it. The 1992 American crime dramedy thriller, Sneakers, which is like, it wasn't on my list of all-time favorite movies, but it's one of those movies that, like, when I was like a teenager, I loved watching this movie because I thought it was super cool because it's got all this like 90s techie stuff, which when you watch it now is super fucking 90s.
I had never heard of that movie. I didn't recognize anything from it. So that it was cool to watch a movie that I'm like, didn't even know this thing existed.
I know we didn't talk a whole lot about it. We did watch it together, but we didn't talk a whole lot about it when we watched it. So I'm excited to actually get your honest feedback on this movie and if you liked it. But we'll get to that part in a bit. But first off, if you're watching us on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Click the bell so you can get notifications when new episodes come out, which is 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesdays. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can also catch us on one of many different podcast networks, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and several other podcast networks. But, and you can also see us on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
I'm a bitch. Did that on
Just
purpose.
A little fast. But we are Movie Dads, of course, so we've got Movie Kids. This weekend was pretty crazy in our household. Reagan had her musical performance for the end of the year. The middle school puts on a play at the end of the year. Reagan's always involved because she's likes to, get involved in that thespian stuff. So this year it was Aladdin.
Oh.
Yeah. So just like last year, and I think I talked about it last year too, Reagan was in the ensemble, but she did get to choreograph some of the dances during some of the musical numbers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which I think is always cool for her to do. Obviously, she would like to have a bigger role in the musical, but, and she had a lot of family come in from out of town and stuff to see it on Saturday. So she had 2 performances on Saturday and 1 performance on Sunday. So I got to go once on Saturday and then I got to go again on Sunday. So my wife saw it twice Saturday. I saw it once Saturday and then on Sunday. But my dad and stepmom came in from Minnesota for the musical, which was nice. And Des basically like conned them into letting him stay over where they were staying on Saturday night. He was like moping around like, I just don't get to see him that often. I really wanted to hang out. And they actually stay at my my stepmom's folks' house, and it's funny because they were like playing like dice games and card games and stuff and dominoes and but they put him to work too. He got to help use a post hole digger and put in a mailbox and stuff.
Nice. That is awesome.
Yeah. So you got to do that all day. So that was kind of our weekend. It was pretty freaking nuts, but that was it.
Love that. That is great. Nothing too crazy in our house this week. Kids were over at the in-laws for like Friday, a little bit through Saturday. Actually, so today we confirmed that I will be putting old Coach Peacock hat back on. Not the college. Not college. It's not the level that I want to go back to. We're talking 5-year-old baseball. And so I'll be coaching Parker's team, which I coached it last year, but it was kind of me and another guy who shared it. And then also I'll be coaching Grayson's team too. So I'll be doing like the 9 through 11-year-olds too. So they
nice.
Originally, I guess, wanted me, and then when they found out I was coaching the little kids, they were like, oh, okay, it's not available. And then they were like, hey, if we schedule this around the games around each other, can you do both? I'm like, I guess, but okay. So last year I was really hesitant about it because, like, I don't know, I'd been out of coaching. Obviously, this isn't anywhere near the level of coaching from my previous world. It's a lot more laid back, but like, just, I don't know, I hadn't been in that world in a long time. And so last year I was supposed to do Parker's by myself, and then I kind of was like, I don't think I'm ready or wanting to go into coaching. And so then they got another guy, and then basically when the season started, they were like, you two are both going to do this together because they needed it. And when I was around it, I kind of inserted myself into helping early, which is why they were like, all right, we're going to have this guy do it with these guys do it together. And the whole time, the whole season, I'm like, I should have just coached these guys. Like, this is a ton of fun. They're having a blast. I love fucking running around, getting hyped for these kids.
Sure.
And just having, I know, everyone laughing their asses off. So, and same with Grayson, when I would go to those games, like I did a lot of the base coaching and stuff, and like getting the kids hype, and like, there's not a lot of energy from some of the coaches and not a lot of like positive, like, you guys are fucking crushing it. Like, let's have some fun and getting excited when they do cool things. Like, there was none of that. And I did that last year, and like the parents liked it and the kids liked it. So I'm like, fuck it. Get me back into the coaching. I'll do both. That's fine. Give me two teams. I'll do it. So
are you doing flag football in the fall?
That was from when I talked to Steph. I don't know like when or if that needs to be put in place, but last I checked, I am supposed to be coaching the team, at least Grayson will be on. So I don't know the details of it. Steph does all the signing up. She's my agent. I'm just the coach. So
agent / publicist.
Yeah, she does all that work for me. I just show up. So
nice.
Kind of like the pod. You know, you do all the work. I just show up and
you're the face.
That's definitely not true. That is not true. Everyone that I know that listens to our pod, they 100% talk about you like you're the cool one on the pod. So it's kind of annoying, but anyways,
I don't think that's annoying.
Of course not. Let's jump into my most excited segment, our 6 to midnight. This is the things that get us up in the morning, things that we're excited about in the nerd world, new news, movie trailers, casting things, new superhero suit reveals, lots of things. So we've got a ton to talk about too, and usually
yes, I even have stuff to talk about that you and I haven't discussed yet. So there is a lot.
There's a busy week. Yeah, it's wild. So first, start off with the new trailer, just to stay within my Star Wars realm. I always got to talk something Star Wars.
We should wish everybody a happy May the 4th. Be with you.
May the 4th. What? Revenge of the 6th? Like, or the 5th? What? I can't remember what people say. Jesus,
Revenge of the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Revenge of the 5th. That's what it is. Yeah, actually, so I thought that was cool. Anthony Smith, one of our friends who's a UFC fighter, they did a post about him. Like, he looked like a Jedi. It was like, May the 4th be with you or something. I just thought that was fucking amazing. Star Wars, they, on this May the 4th, they dropped a new trailer for the Acolyte, which, I mean, we've seen some stuff from it already, but we got like a first glimpse of essentially what the villain or the Sith that's going to be in it.
Yeah.
Did you end up seeing? Yes, there's a lot of
There's still a
questions.
lot of questions. Still a lot of questions. Yeah, I mean, I checked it out. I was,
Yeah, same.
yeah, I just
It's like,
it's like there are things that I think look really cool, and there are things that I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to get hurt again.
yeah. the they have a lightsaber throw in it, which was like
Mhm.
fucking super cool. The Sith or the villain, he has like a mask that has like these two metal like rings that go in. It literally looks like basically a zipper mouth on a black hood.
It
It's
does look cool.
very it looks cool. It also looks very
Bring
like
out the gimp.
yes, it looks very much like a gimp helmet. So I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's what they
I doubt
did.
it.
But I'm interested. I think
Of course.
I mentioned last week about the Tales of the Empire that
Mhm.
came out, which I did watch it. It was
Good.
actually really good,
Good.
just like the Tales of the Jedi. Before that show, I didn't really have any care for Count Dooku's character, and then
Mhm.
Tales of the Jedi made that character way more interesting and gave him way more depth. This show does that with the Inquisitors, which I think I've mentioned to you are someone like characters I
Yes.
just have not cared about at all.
Right.
Um, so they made them interesting, and then the bad guy, the female bad guy from Ahsoka, the like she ends up becoming um one of the witches
Mhm.
of Dathomir. Um, and she originally popped up in one of the Mandalorian episodes. She was in the episode with that Ahsoka premiered in. She was like the shogun of that little what felt like a samurai town.
Yeah.
Anyways, that character gets a lot of backstory and kind of where she comes from. So it was interesting. If you haven't watched Tales of the Empire, definitely recommend. Go check it out. It's available now.
Did
Um,
you see, and just to hop on your little Star Wars wagon, did you see the trailer for
Big wagon.
it's a big wagon. This comment, this segment. Did you see the trailer for the new Lego special that's going to be coming out in September on Disney Plus, Rebuild the Galaxy? So you need to watch the trailer. It's a Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy special. It's going to be on September 13th, but they released a trailer over the weekend for May the 4th. And in the trailer, out of the evil version of the Millennium Falcon steps one Darth Jar Jar.
Oh my god.
And he
Yes.
walks out and he says, "Misa gonna hurt you, sir." And it's hilarious that they actually went with it because it was
That's
always a
awesome.
running
Those
gag. But if you,
that's not a running gag. There's a lot of people that have
I
like
know,
it's kind of like the Pixar story, like that there's some underlying major
right,
tie. Basically, a lot of people thought that Jar Jar was secretly the like evil Lord Sith running everything. There's
right.
actually a pretty interesting story behind
I
that.
don't know if
So,
it'll show up well on the camera, but
oh my god, it's amazing. I
the funny
love
they went
that.
with it. All right, continue. I jumped in.
That's great.
Continue.
No, it was a good little breakup of me just talking. I love that.
Hmm.
And then the other major news that came out, we finally got a first peek at old Soups. Got to see David Corn Sweats / James Gunn's Superman suit. And when they dropped it, I think a lot of people were excited at first, and then
Yes.
immediately as I started peeking at it, he looks like one. He's wearing his dad's suit. Like, whenever like in high school, it's basketball, it's a game day, you got to wear dress clothes to school. So you wear your dad's like dress clothes and it's way too big. That's the suit. David Corn Sweat's Superman suit looks like a freaking extra large scuba suit. He looks like Scuba Steve Superman, in my opinion. Like It's just I didn't like it. I love that they did the underwear over the pants. I love that we got briefs because that is iconic Superman. And I said this to you. I don't want to be a hater. I don't want to be a DC hater where everything that comes out we pick at and I hate. But oh my gosh, I could not help it with this. So here's my biggest beef with it. James Gunn has been dropping like these little posts of different Superman comics that he's reading, essentially telling us that this is part of his like influence for this Superman in this movie of really iconic Superman stories that like every time he posts, I'm like, oh, thank God he gets the character like that. We're going to get that. Amazing. But here's what makes me now think that maybe he doesn't get the character, because there are two major things with this Superman suit that are synonymous with a comic Superman that literally was so bad. They was so hated by fans that they killed him off and replaced him with the older original Superman in canon. He's the collar thing. He's a Superman suit with a collar. I'm not here for the collar. Batman on Pattinson, it grew on me. I liked it after I saw the movie. So maybe that will happen with this. But that collar was the same thing that was in the New 52 Superman that came out. And the other thing with it, which this is a little thing, and I haven't really seen many people post about this, but I noticed it because if you look at his hands, there's another thing with the New 52 Superman suit that he has this like emo, like hand cover, like thumb hole type sleeve that just, it goes down over half of his hand. It looks very emo. But like New 52 Superman, he had like emo thumb hole hand cover and this fucking collar. And then he was a Superman that wasn't about being good and being a good human. And so he was so bad that like fans hated it. They like boycotted buying the book. And like I said, it was so bad that they literally killed him off in canon and replaced him, brought the original Superman back. And so seeing that, like, this is his like comic inspired Superman, and the suit is like heavily leaning into one of the biggest Superman character versions that people did not like, makes me nervous. So
I get
I've been
it.
talking. Give me your thoughts.
I wanted you to. This was your segment to talk all about Superman. I'm with you on the like. Why does it look like it doesn't fit correctly? Like it's bunched up at the shoulders, like it's loose. I kept thinking about Marty McFly's jacket from Back to the Future 2, where he like hits the button and it like, grips onto his body. Like maybe Soup's going to push the S and it's going to form tight around him. I don't know.
It's like an inch thick of rubber too. Like you can see,
it's
like it's fucking super weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It does look a little odd. I don't know. I mean, it's a picture. We're talking about a picture.
I know.
And the thing that I thought was funny is it looked like he's like casually putting his boots on, and like there's like some giant laser beam or freaking explosion happening behind him, and I see some people have had some fun with that one.
Yes. I saw that too.
Other things going on behind him, and he's just like, oh well, guess I better get my boots on. I gotta go to work.
Yeah, I really do think that James Gunn had like this internal like, oh, I'm about to drop like fire on everyone. Like people are gonna fucking love this. We're finally gonna show off how cool this looks. And then they did, and people were like, what?
It's one of those things like I do at work. Like if I got to take pictures of something and send it to some higher up or a boss or something like that, Kyle, I will take like 5 pictures of the same thing. And then I will look at that picture 100 times before I ever send it to somebody higher up to make sure there's nothing wrong with it. I think about like, what are they going to critique? Are they going to look at this? Are they going to look at that? Are they going to look at this? If you take that picture, you must have initially thought like, hey, what do you think? What do you think's wrong with this? Do you see anything wrong with this picture? There had better have been somebody that said, yeah, it doesn't look like the suit fits. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
going on behind him? Like, yeah, it looks weird. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think
Maybe he just didn't care.
there is an iconic Alex Ross Superman panel where Superman is like, he's like sitting in his chair at home. He looks just like a regular middle-aged man. You could see his Superman suit on, but he's got like his dress clothes unbuttoned over, like he's just at the end of a long day. And I think that was kind of the vibe they were trying to go with.
I think you're right.
But you're right. Like putting like an epic destruction from like Brainiac or something in the background.
That's what it looks like. That's the speculation. Yeah.
There's a lot of people are like, what? Okay, so he's just gonna sit and chill. I think maybe they were trying to be like he just fought that and now he's relaxing, but
maybe because I mean, if you look at like his face and stuff, it does look like he's been through something. Like his face looks a little beat up. There's like dirt on it. His hair's even more messed.
Shield has got like
it's a little
battle.
Yeah, it's like he just got done battling. I don't know. We don't know. It's a picture, whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's we're obviously choice. Reading way into it.
I know, but it's an odd choice for the first picture. It is. I'm sure there's meaning to it, and I'm sure we'll find out. But
yes, I saw a lot of people just saying this looks like an AI generated photo. Like, so, oh man,
yeah.
But I still am excited for the movie. I think in my head I was expecting, like, because he's talked so much about Kingdom Come Superman inspiring him, the Brandon Roth, like not the movie, but the return when he showed up in like the DC superheroes. I don't remember what the show was. They did like a Crisis on Infinite Earths, like live action CW, and Brandon Roth, he had the black and red symbol, but like he's like the perfect jacked. It just looked straight from the comics. It looked like an Alex Ross painting. That's what I was like wanting and hoping and expecting. So anyways, I'm sorry. I will talk about that all day. So I will let you jump into what you were going to talk about. This is oh, never mind. This isn't the Brandon Roth one. Forget what I said. Continue. You take over.
Totally good. So just a couple things news-wise for me that I want to talk about. The first one was like, do you watch Cobra Kai? Have you watched that at all? The Karate Kid series on Netflix? Anyway, so Cobra Kai is coming into its final season. They announced that's going to be released in 3 parts starting this July, I think it is. The first 5 episodes are going to come out, then the next 5 in November, and then the final 5 episodes will come out at the end of the year. It's been kind of a big deal, and it's kind of sparked like this revival with the Karate Kid franchise. They're obviously making another one with Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio.
Love that.
But it's also gotten a younger audience into it because it's, I mean, in the series is really kind of centered around William Zabka's character, Johnny, more than it has Ralph Macchio. And so it's a really good show. If you haven't watched it, it's actually pretty funny.
It's so interesting that like a younger, more like recent crowd are into Karate Kid, and it's not even the Karate Kid that they're into it for.
Right. So he's in it, but
crazy.
I mean, like it's, it centers more around, the younger, like high school kids, like Johnny's got a son and Daniel's got a daughter, and Miguel is the main character, and he's the I forget his name, but he's the same guy that played Blue Beetle. Like he's the main character in the show.
Oh, cool.
It's actually really good. And like my daughter loves it and she's super excited for the final season, but that they announced that's coming out. This weekend in theaters, The Fall Guy came out with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. I went and saw it. It's fucking awesome. It's like,
oh my God, it's fucking awesome.
It's like the perfect kind of summer movie. Like it's funny. Ryan Gosling's comedic delivery is, I don't know how he does it, but it's pretty freaking great. The stunts are awesome. It is a love letter to the stunt people, the stunt community, which is really cool. And then it's got a neat story. It's got some twists. It's got romance, all of it. But if you get a chance, I'd recommend it to anybody. Go see Fall Guy for sure. I would
Um,
probably give it an 8. It's a heck of a movie, and
oh,
it did not do good at the box office either.
I don't think there was nothing about. I know they did a ton of marketing
It
recently
did.
with it, but there just wasn't anything that I felt was like a major pull for it. But the concept I thought was really cool.
Yep.
I obviously haven't seen it, but now hearing that you really loved it, I am going to have to see it. So
I would
I
recommend
have.
it. It's
I've
pretty
talked
good.
with you. One of my good buddies from high school grew up to be the stunt double for John Cena in basically all of his movies for the last like 10 years or something like that. But I had been texting with him about the movie to see if like, hey, are you in this movie about stunt people since you're like a
Right.
professional stunt guy? He wasn't in it, but he had said he was kind of looking forward to see it. So
No, I totally get that. But that came out. One kind of thing that I got news of yesterday that I was pretty excited about, like, so there's a movie franchise with Vin Diesel where he plays the character Riddick, and it started with the movie Pitch Black. I don't know if you ever saw Pitch Black.
Fuck yeah, I fucking love Pitch Black.
Fucking awesome. And
way
then
better than Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah, so Chronicles of Riddick was the sequel, and then the third one I think was just called Riddick. And then so they just announced they're making a fourth one, which I'm kind of excited about, called Riddick Furia, where he goes back to his home planet because he's a Furian. And so they're going to make a fourth one. So I'm kind of interested in that. And the original writer and director of Pitch Black is coming back to do this one.
Oh, that's cool.
He didn't do the
like
sequels.
I just said.
I know. I was like, okay, I'm on board. That's pretty cool. So that's interesting. And then just one other thing I was going to talk about was Rotten Tomatoes released their list of the best movies of all time. They did they just kind of announced it the other day. Their 300 best movies of all time. So I just kind of wanted to give you the top 10 and see what you thought, because that was kind of what I thought about it too. Number 10 was On the Waterfront, which is a classic Marlon Brando movie. I don't know if you've ever saw it. It's old, probably 1940s or 50s. Older.
I love Marlon Brando, but I've not seen that movie.
It's great. It's one of his best movies if you've never seen it. And then number 9 was Chinatown.
Worth being on.
Yeah, I'd say On the Waterfront. Yeah, it's an all-time classic.
All right.
Chinatown was number 9. Did you ever see Chinatown with Jack Nicholson? Older one too.
I'm really embarrassed.
Early 70s.
Chinatown, our movie podcast.
Chinatown's also a really good movie. Number 8 was Toy Story 2.
Oh, interesting.
I thought so too. I thought that was very interesting.
Huh.
Numbers. I don't know if I would put Toy Story 2 on the top 10 movies of all time. I don't know if it's even my favorite Toy Story.
Is it like box office related?
No,
that
not
wouldn't
at all.
Make sense either. Okay,
no, not at all.
Continue.
Number 7 was Top Gun Maverick. Yep.
Okay,
I know, which I think is a very good movie.
Fucking awesome. Don't know if
it's 10 greatest movies of all time. Number 6 was Schindler's List. Yeah, it's right. I think that one probably makes total sense. Number 5 was Parasite. Did you see Parasite? Which came out just a couple years ago. It won Best Picture at the Oscars. It's Korean.
Yes.
It's a Korean movie.
It was weird to me.
It is weird. It is a weird movie.
It's
a good movie. It's weird. I would not put it in the top 10 movies of all time. Number 4 is the Kurosawa classic Seven Samurai, which I think is
fucking awesome movie.
Fucking awesome, right? And so it's been remade as Magnificent Seven was a remake of Seven Samurai. So all classic.
It's been like the inspiration for multiple really good other movies and TV show episodes that I'm trying to recreate it.
Right. And then number 3 was Casablanca, which I think is viewed as an all-time classic. I'll be honest, I've never seen Casablanca.
Oh my God. You need to take 3 days off of work because it is the longest movie in history.
No.
But that's like The Godfather. Like you have to see that at least one time.
Number 2 is The Godfather.
Oh, I work
which
for
obviously it was on my greatest movies of all time list. And then number 1 was L.A. Confidential.
What?
Yep.
Okay, one that is one of your favorite movies of all time, or top movies ever. So that's kind of cool.
3 or 4.
Did you feel validated when you saw
Yes,
that?
100%. When I saw it was the number one, I was like, fucking knew it.
Yeah, fucking told you, Kyle.
Told you guys.
Told you guys. Oh my god,
Yep.
that's wild. Surprised that obviously Shawshank is not on there. That's
were you surprised Forrest Gump's not on there? Does that surprise you?
I mean, if Shawshank's not on there, well, actually, the whole list itself, like fucking Toy Story 2's on there, but Shawshank Redemption isn't.
It is an odd list. I mean, like,
I love Toy Story 2, by the way. It might
too.
actually be my favorite Toy Story, so it is my favorite Toy Story.
I like the original.
I like the original too, but I hate the original because it like they pin Woody as the bad guy for like in everybody else's view. I don't like that. He's a good dude.
Get that. I get what you're saying.
So they gave him his flowers in Toy Story 2, and we got Zed, and we got like a toy store that was super cool. Anyways, not the greatest movie of all time though.
That one, Top Gun Maverick, I thought was odd. Like I really liked that movie. I thought it was one of the better movies that came out that year. Don't get me wrong, but top 10 of all time.
I don't know. I mean, it was a really good movie. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, it was one of those. Go see it immediately, like right after I get done. Right? Like
yes. Yeah. It also may have had the luxury of timing on its side too, because it wasn't that like the first blockbuster movie theater movie back after the pandemic, or like that was like the first big time movie we had in a really long time.
I don't think so, because I think Spider-Man had already come out. I think No Way Home was the first like huge box office like couple $1 billion one. Then I think that came out. That came out around Christmas.
Why would I think that then? Wow.
Because I think it got delayed.
What? Top Gun was a summer movie, I thought.
It was. That's what I'm saying. Spider-Man had come out Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And then Top Gun had come out. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked.
Maybe that's right. Maybe I'm a fool. I'm a fool.
I'm gonna look it up. You keep talking.
I mean, that's an interesting list. It is very Rotten Tomatoes on brand of like just very weird and against the grain.
Top Gun came out summer of 22, and No Way Home I think had come out Christmas of 21. Let me double check. Yep, Christmas of 21.
Oh,
so
I don't know why I thought that. Then maybe I was thinking wrong. Maybe I was thinking like first summer blockbuster.
Maybe.
Anyways,
yeah.
Interesting. That's very Rotten Tomatoes.
It's a weird list. It is a weird list.
A lot of what the hell? That doesn't make sense.
I know.
But the Parasite being on there makes a ton of sense because the Rotten Tomatoes critics are the snobbiest snobs. Like they like stuff that's super weird and they hate stuff that's super good.
Listen, we've talked about Rotten Tomatoes, and I know a lot of people hate Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes, like all they do is just post what people review things as. Like they're not the ones that are actually reviewing most of these things. Like they're like, listen, 90% of critics are saying this is good. Here you go.
Yeah.
That's not them saying like 90% of our people think it's good. No, it's literally like critics across all media, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, and Rotten Tomatoes is a big deal. Whenever like Shogun, they were like, this is the first certified like 100% show on Rotten Tomatoes since Game of Thrones or something.
It's a review aggregate site. It is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just people give it a bad rap, and it's because people don't like what critics have to say. We've talked about this before on here, but like people don't like critics because a lot of critics are weird and snobby, which is a fact because there are a lot of weird snobby movies that critics love that, you know, we've talked about on here, and it's like I don't understand what the fuck I was watching, you know.
Dude, yes, I totally agree with that.
Anyway,
there was one other thing I wanted to talk about
that
we had originally kind of talked about, or do we have some lag there or something?
You're good.
Okay. The voice actor for the Spider-Man animated series from 94, which is fucking awesome show. And now that X-Men 97 has like exploded, they people have been like begging for them to do the same thing with Spider-Man, And then we got a Spider-Man cameo in the most recent episode, which was like fucking mind-blowing. I literally leaned forward in my seat to listen to hear if the voice actor was going to speak. Christopher Daniel Barnes is his name. And he didn't say anything. They just showed Spider-Man like look, and then it panned away. But basically, the whole fucking world lost its mind. And then he came out and posted like essentially saying like, nope, my phone has not rang at all for anything for this character in 20 plus years. But if they do, I thought what he said was funny. He's like, but if they do call, then I'll sign like a non-disclosure and then randomly go silent and not be able to comment on the subject for a while. I just thought that was a funny way of saying, if they do, I'll disappear for a little bit, guys.
And you said, well, I hope he goes silent.
Yeah, I fucking said, I hope his fucking social media goes silent and we don't hear from him, because he fucking better be in the show. Because man, they did confirm that was that Spider-Man who was from that show. They did do an X-Men crossover. I've been trying to get Howie to watch that show, and I told him like at least go watch the Spider-Man X-Men crossover, and it'll be worth your time. So
I'm on the 4th of 5 seasons of the original series of X-Men, which I hope to have finished by the time the finale comes out in 9 days or whatever. Because I'm gonna be sad when X-Men 97 is over, because I've enjoyed it so much.
Dude, agreed. I totally agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, and then I'll probably start trying to watch some Spider-Man, the animated series.
Let's fucking go. I'll rewatch that. We could do a spin-off series on this YouTube channel where all we do is fucking reviews of the Spider-Man episodes.
Reviews of old cartoons.
Quick fucking 5-minute cartoon episode review. If you guys want to see that, comment and say, we want this.
We want to see you talk about old 30-year-old shows.
I'll fucking do it.
I know. All right. Well, that takes us into our I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen It, the 1992 American crime dramedy thriller, Sneakers. Sneakers is a Universal Pictures release directed by Phil Alden Robinson, which Phil Alden Robinson directed like 6 movies in his entire career. But a couple of them were bangers. He directed this. He directed Field of Dreams, and he directed the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan movie, Sum of All Fears, which I thought was interesting. So that was like half his filmography right there.
Did you like that movie?
Sum of All Fears? I liked all the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan movies and the TV show. I liked all of them.
Yeah, I knew that you loved those, but I thought that movie was super boring, but I was in high school when it came out, I think. So that's probably why. Maybe younger.
But I like spy movie stuff. So.
Yeah. Okay.
It's written by Robinson. He co-wrote it with Walter Parks and Lawrence Tasker, which I think it's funny that they actually started writing the script for this movie in 1981 while they were writing the script for the Matthew Broderick movie War Games, which was interesting. And then Lawrence Tasker, actually, I think he was him, that he like only wrote 2 screenplays ever, and then he got into producing, which I thought was fascinating. So interesting there. Anyway, the cast includes Robert Redford as Martin Bishop and Martin Bryce, because he has an alias. Dan Aykroyd as Mother, Ben Kingsley as Cosmo, Mary McDonnell as Liz, River Phoenix as Carl, Sidney Poitier as Crease, and David Strathairn as Whistler. This movie had a budget of $23 billion and it grossed $105 million at the box office. It was a relatively substantial hit for the time, which I thought was pretty good. So, looking back, a movie I haven't watched in a couple of years, but I know it's one of the things it's one of the movies I talked about that I really like to watch, and I was a real big fan of, like in the 90s and stuff. I think it holds up. Obviously, the techie stuff is very outdated because it's very 90s, but it seems like it's one of those movies where it's got this like huge all-star cast and it just looks like they were having the time of their lives while they filmed this movie. Like it looks
Yeah.
like they were just having a ton of fun. And it you kind of shows because you can tell like the way they kind of play off each other and stuff. Like Dan Aykroyd, I think, was the second biggest billing after Robert Redford for this movie, but he's not what I would consider like one of the main 3 or 4 people. He's almost like just kind of a part of their like 5-man heist crew, spy crew, or whatever. But you know, he's the comedy, right? But River Phoenix is funny. Even Sidney Poitier's got funny lines. Like Robert Redford is extremely charming, just like he is in just about every movie he is. And it's funny. We kind of talked about this. You were like, I don't know if I've ever seen a whole lot of things that Robert Redford's in. And really, like, he didn't make much after like 70s and 80s. Like, he did a few movies in the 90s. He did a couple things in the early 2000s. And then he just kind of really, he did like that one where it's just him by himself the entire movie. I don't even know if there's any dialogue in it. I don't remember what it's called. Like he's on a boat. I don't know. It's like Old Man in the Sea, but it's not what it is. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I don't know the name of it, but I picture
it. But I would think like most of this generation, probably he's like the bad guy in Winter Soldier. Like that's it. Like that's probably what most people think of, you know, is he's the secretary, he's the evil part of S.H.I.E.L.D. that's run by Hydra, like in Winter Soldier. But he made a ton of awesome movies in the 70s. He liked to do a lot of spy movies. And even some of the reviews of this when it came out were like, this movie feels like it was buried for 20 years and then was like dug up, like, because it feels like one of those classic like 70s kind of caper heist spy movies that came out then. But what were your like first reactions, thoughts just on the movie?
I fucking love like 90s movies. Like I just love, what year did this come out?
92.
What you said? I just like, there's something about that time frame where like movies can be super zany or weird, but like in the best of ways. The only thing that threw me off originally was like, I don't think the name, they should have named it something different. Like Sneakers, all I think of is shoes. The second that I hear the name of this movie, I don't think of like spies or anything like that. I get sneakers because they're sneaking around
sneaky
all
people,
the time.
sneaky snakes.
Yeah, they could have named it Sneaky Snakes. But I really enjoyed it. So far, every movie that you have had me watch that I have never seen, I am like, I've never heard of this thing. And then I'm like, I fucking love this movie. So, I liked the tech. I thought actually a lot of it seemed way ahead of its time. And even looking back now, it was kind of cool stuff, but it is dated in terms of like them some of the stuff that they had to do,
the answering machine, and like the way they have to, the way the internet works, right?
Yes, it's like, oh, you could do that. You could do all that stuff with an iPhone now. Like,
pretty much.
But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Good. So just kind of go through the basic plot of the movie is like, it kind of starts off with the flashback scene. You get Robert Redford's in college and he's with his buddy Cosmo, and they're taking money from like the National Republican Party and they're like donating it to the Black Panthers, right? So they're hacking into things they're not supposed to. Well, they one of them has to go get pizza. They kind of do like a flip the coin kind of thing. And Robert Redford's character Martin has to go get the pizza, and Cosmo's left behind at the school. While he's gone, cops show up. Cosmo goes to jail because they're breaking tons of federal laws. And
it's like the FBI shows up and arrests them.
Yeah. It's so Robert Redford basically disappears. He changes his name. He starts over, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to present day, or 90s for the movie. And he has a team. And what they basically do is they're hired by companies to test the security in their places. So like the opening scene in the present day is like, they basically break into the security of the bank. They transfer some money to an account. And then he goes in the next day, withdraws all the cash into a briefcase, and then he walks right up to the boardroom and says, these are the things that you need to fix. By the way, here's all this cash that I just stole from you guys. which is it's a fucking baller move, and it's a pretty cool scene. But and in the crew it's him, it's Dan Aykroyd, his mother, it's River Phoenix's Carl. He's the young hotshot, like the guy that does most of the like physical legwork. Sidney Poitier's Crease, he's like the old CIA guy. And then David Strathairn's Whistler, and Whistler's like, he's blind, but he's like the big tech guy, the big computer guy, right? That does all that.
Yeah.
So basically
that scene where he, because it opens up with them like robbing this bank or robbing something, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what are they doing? Who are they? The bad guys? Are they the good guys? And then when he walks in and basically is like, here's all the money that I stole from you, and these are the things you have to fix. That was the moment that I was like, all right, this is fucking cool. I'm into this. So
basically, like, somebody figures out who Martin used to be, right? And these two guys, they say they're from the NSA, and they're like, you're going to do this job for us, or, and we're going to make this stuff go away. Otherwise, people are going to find out who you are, and you're going to go to prison, right? And that's his big goal. He doesn't want to. So then he's got to kind of like come clean to his team, right? And they all kind of have secrets, like, why aren't you in the CIA anymore? Like, why are you, Whistler, why are you doing this and not working for some tech company, blah, blah, blah. So they all have kind of secrets. Obviously, Martin's is that he should be in federal prison. But they hire him to find this black box. So they don't know what it is. They know who has it. They know who created it. And they have to try and steal it. And they do this surveillance. There's this funny scene where they're like watching this guy, code guy, through the window, and he's having an affair, blah, blah, blah. And they have to break in, and they figure out that he has an answer machine on his desk, but he has a call service. They figure out that's this machine, this thing, the black box that they have to steal. So they steal this black box. They take it back to their workshop. They're having this big party. They're all going to make all this money. It's like the biggest job they've ever had. So Whistler starts messing around with the box, and he realizes it's like the ultimate code breaker. Like, he can hack into anything with this box because it would break any encryption on it. He goes into the national power grid. He goes into air traffic control. He goes into the Federal Reserve. And then they basically realize, like, somebody's like, anybody who knows we have this is going to kill us if we
like literally.
Yes. Right. So then he meets with the guys from the NSA. Turns out the mathematician or the code guy was killed. And so they realize, hey, they're going to kill us too. We got to run. So they give them the machine and they run. Well, they end up catching up with them. They frame Martin for murder. And they take him to this building in the trunk of a car where it turns out that the bad guy is his old buddy from college, Cosmo, which is played by Ben Kingsley.
Which I did not like. I am an idiot because I didn't think about that at all of being a thing. Like, and they foreshadowed it. They mentioned that his buddy went away to prison and died in prison like multiple times throughout the movie. So I should have picked up on that, but it didn't occur to me at all that his college buddy would be a part of, like, because there's originally like basically thinking they're going up against like the KGB or like Russia.
Yeah, so I think it's Russians, right? That's because this is like right after the Cold War. It's the early 90s. It's right after the Cold War. Everybody, Russians are our friends, but we still spy on each other, right? Because that's what you do. Yeah,
so that was a good twist.
It was, and it's Ben Kingsley too, and Ben Kingsley's awesome actor. So they end up letting him go, and he basically gets a hold of somebody at the CIA, and they're like, we need protection, yada, yada. And they basically tell him in a roundabout way, like, we're not going to do shit for you unless you get the box back. Right.
Yeah.
So then they got to figure out where he was taken, which is, I think that's a pretty cool scene where they do the sounds of the way that the gaps on like the road sounds, right, to figure out which bridge he crossed in San Francisco. And then he said he thought he heard a bunch of people talking at like a dinner party, and it turns out it was because they drove by the reservoir and there was a bunch of geese, and they end up finding the building. And then I think like they analyze the building, they figure out the blueprints, they get all the security details, all the things they have to do. They have to have voice recognition, all this to break into the building. So Martin's like ex-girlfriend Liz, who's played by Mary McDonnell, they use her to basically like go on a date with the guy that has the office next to Cosmo's,
Yeah.
right? And to get him to say all these goofy lines and steal his pass card and stuff. So Martin can break in, and then Cosmo's like office is temperature controlled, right? So they have to, which I think is cool too. They have this, it's very like high, it's real thrillerish, right? You're really kind of like high tension, and he's got to like slowly walk across this room to not set off the like motion detectors. But
yeah.
they
It
end
kind of
up
gives like a Mission Impossible vibe where like
100%.
they're sneaking in and it's
Yeah.
pretty difficult to get through.
It is, and it's like Mission Impossible with like a bunch of like regular Joes. It feels like, right? Like these aren't like
yeah, that's a great way. Like
these
the
aren't like
cast
normal
from
spies.
the Ghostbusters. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, they're just like some of them are they're kind of a couple of them are fuck ups, but they are pretty good at what they do. They end up getting, long story short, they end up getting the box back. CIA, whoever, yada yada, they give them the box, and then they clear the record, and everybody gets paid. That's kind of how, that's the gist of the movie. But execution wise, like I the thing I like about this movie is I think it's hilarious. I think some of the comments, like Dan Aykroyd's this big conspiracy theorist. He's like just a kook, and everybody, like Sidney Poitier, like tells his wife, like, don't ever talk to this man again. Like, just stay away from him, kind of thing. And he's like saying this off the wall shit. Like JFK's not even dead. He's alive and well. He's just hiding, and yeah, I think it's good. I mean, even some of the comments, like the part where they're watching the codebreaker guy through the window, and he's like, him and the gal comes in, she's all over him, and he's like, Carl River Phoenix's character is like, let me see. And Robert Redford's like, go sit down, be professional. Sidney Poitier's like, let me see.
Yeah, that was actually funny.
Yeah, I get it. Was a good one. But
I liked the like major cameo at the end, or like just a character that I wasn't expecting to be in it. Old freaking Darth Vader himself, James Earl Jones, was
he was the CIA guy on the phone.
Yes, so that was kind of cool. And speaking of funny, his scene was funny, as they had acquired the box, and now to give it to the CIA or give it back to the government, they are like, we're not going to give it to you unless you give us, like, I want a round trip across the world. Like, I want 2 tickets for me and my wife to go to Europe. And like, as they went through the whole team of like the things they were asking, James Earl Jones was like, no, we're not doing that. Fine, whatever. You can get your trip. And like, fine, whatever. One guy asked for like world peace. He's like, okay, you can have world peace. It's just, I don't know. It was goofy, but
it's pretty funny. And James Earl Jones, just the way he acts through that scene too, it's pretty good.
But, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, the whole thing's. Listen, I really like this movie. I think it keeps your interest for the entire like 2-hour runtime. I think it's funny. I think the cast is fantastic. Like, even Mary McDonnell, like, she's not part of the crew, but she feels like part of the crew because of all the things that they have her do and stuff. I think she's pretty awesome in this. Everybody's delivery is great. Like, the acting's good, music's good, the setting's kind of cool. Like, and like we said, the tech, like when they're breaking the codes and stuff. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. I love this movie growing up. I'm gonna give it 8.5. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, if you haven't seen this movie, and if you like any 90s movie that we've talked about, like, it's a great movie and worth a one-time watch. So worked out that on the pod, we gave us kind of a reason to go back and watch it. But I definitely, if I had seen this growing up, I would fondly remember it. I just know that based on the type of movie it is. It's like the perfect action comedy. So,
Thinking Man's action comedy, though. I guess the spy stuff kind of makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's like the Naked Gun movies, because those are like super goofy, and this is a little bit more serious. But I don't know. It was great. I loved it. I'm giving it a 7. Not going to give it an 8. but I'll give it a 7. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably enjoyed it more than I did what's it? Big Time in Little China, or what's the movie?
Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China. I like that movie. This was more up my alley. Like, this goes right up there with like watching like The Rock and like Face Off and just those kind of goofy 90s movies that are random but interesting and funny. So I liked it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So a couple fun facts, because I know we've been trying to do that lately. So a couple fun facts about this movie, and I thought this story was hilarious when I looked it up. So at one point while they were like doing pre-production, Phil Alden Robinson received a visit from a couple men that claimed that they were from the Office of Naval Intelligence. And they said that for reasons of national security, this film couldn't include any references to a handheld device that can decode codes. And Phil Alden Robinson was highly concerned because the device is a key plot point to the entire movie.
It's the main.
So he went to lawyers from the film studio and came to the realization that this was staged and was a prank set up most likely by Robert Redford and Dan Aykroyd, who sent these guys to pretend they were from Naval Intelligence.
Amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then one other thing that I thought was kind of funny was when they sent out a press kit for the movie. The press kit was accompanied by a floppy disk that contained a custom program that explained the movie to the press. Parts of the program were quasi-encrypted and required the user to enter a password to proceed that they had to figure out. And it was one of the very first press kits that was done electronically by a studio. So I thought that was an interesting.
That is actually a super cool fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
And back in that time frame, like, it's way cooler because nowadays people you just Google the answer, right? Like, it's just you find things right away, or you don't have to figure it out yourself because someone's already figured it out online.
Exactly.
Like, for the time of the time frame of that's cool. I think that's pretty funny, fucking cool. Floppy disks. Do anyone remember those freaking floppy disks? Little metal thing on it. Oh my god!
Yeah. I'm even thinking of like the bigger one. You remember the bigger one that was like super thin? You don't remember those? Okay.
I don't think I was alive when those were out.
Yeah, like the original floppy disk. It was like
I think of the one.
So the one you're thinking of was like this big, right? Like that's the one you're thinking of. I'm thinking of the ones that were like this big that were super flat.
The one that there's the save icon on computers is the floppy disk that kids don't even know what it is. They just think that's the save sign, the save symbol.
So why do you call it a floppy disk? It wasn't very floppy, was it?
I don't know. That's just what they were called, right?
Yeah, but
you're saying that the older and bigger one was more floppy.
The actual floppy disk.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
And those usually that little
those were like paper thin.
You write on it, so the little stickers on there. Yeah.
But that's a floppy disk because you used to like it would literally like fold and bend because it was like paper thin.
Anyway. I now that you show me that picture,
many years ago,
back in the old dusty.
Back in the old days. Yeah.
So,
all right. Anyway, that's our review and our thoughts on the 1992 action crime, dramedy, thriller, comedy, Sneakers. And that takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So we got a couple of oddballs this week. I think a little different, not straightforward,
super out there.
Yeah. So I went this week with top 5 casts of a movie, right? So like I was thinking about Sneakers and how it's got this just stacked ensemble of actors and actresses, right? And I was like, well, what movies had the best casts ever? So I thought that would be kind of a fun one to do, a little off the wall. But anyway, here is my list for the top 5. I put in parentheses stacked casts. Top 5 stacked casts of all time. I had one honorable mention that I wanted to put. And the reason I have it as an honorable mention, because I think if we look at it now, it's massive. But if you looked at it at the time, you didn't realize how big of a stars a lot of these people were going to be. So at number 5, or no, this honorable mention. Honorable mention, I had Return of the King.
Love it.
Okay, so we've got Viggo, Ian McKellen, right? Elijah Wood, okay? Jonathan Rhys-Davies, Orlando Bloom, right? We're just like, keep going. Carl Urban's in it.
Fucking old nerd of nerds.
Yeah, and I'd even seen like an interview, and I think I talked about this before, where it was like Orlando Bloom got paid like, it was in the thousands. Like, I don't even think he got paid $1 million to make Lord of the Rings.
Shit.
Right. Yes. And they said, would you do that again? And he goes, in a heartbeat. Look what it did for me. Right. Like, nobody knew who I was. And now I made millions after that. So anyway, I had Return to the King as my honorable mention. At number 5, I had Pulp Fiction at number 5.
Saw that on a lot of lists. I did see that on a lot of lists.
Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, Bruce Willis. God, who else? Eric Stoltz has a freaking small scene in it. Tim Roth, Amanda Plummer, Ving Rhames, right? Like
Ving Rhames, yeah.
There's a ton of freaking people in that movie. So I had Pulp Fiction at number 5, and it's an awesome freaking movie. So
it is an awesome movie. I did go and watch it start to finish for the first time a couple weeks ago because I was like, how have I not watched this thing from start to finish?
Really, none of these are bad. These aren't bad movies because like you're not going to get a ton of famous people to make a shit movie, right? Like you got to think about that. So that was number 5. And number 4, I had Oppenheimer at number 4. And like Oppenheimer was pretty intense. I mean, like you just think the main cast, right? Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, right? Like even think about some of the guys that were barely in the movie. Rami Malek's barely in the movie, right? Yeah. Casey Affleck's barely in the movie. Dane DeHaan's in it. I mean, Josh Hartnett, we talked about that. There's a billion freaking people. Gary Oldman shows up as President Truman, and he's in the scene for like 30 seconds, right? Like the entire movie is just full of freaking famous people. Florence Pugh. Tons of famous people. I could just keep thinking of people. Oppenheimer's just stacked. And number 3, I had The Departed with the Martin Scorsese Best Picture winner, right? Your main characters, basically Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Alec Baldwin, Mark Wahlberg, right? Like it is just Martin Sheen. As I'm sitting here and I start naming these people, like there is a billion freaking people in that movie. And it's an awesome freaking movie too. So I had The Departed at number 3.
I love it.
And I had to, I wasn't going to leave one of these movies off this list. So at number 2, I had Avengers Endgame at number 2.
Oh, there it is.
I had to do it at some point, right? Like I had to list everybody. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Chadwick Boseman, right? Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Holland. Paul Rudd. You can name Jeremy Renner. Everybody's in it. It's freaking Avengers, right? And it's Endgame had everybody in it because Infinity War was missing a few people, right? Like Jeremy Renner, Paul Rudd weren't in that one, but they all made it for Endgame. So, and Josh Brolin because he's the best character in that movie. And then at number 1, I think this was like when you thought of how did they get that many people to do a movie? It was like amazing when it came out. And so at number 1, I had the remake of Ocean's 11.
Oh, there it is.
George Clooney, Brad Pitt.
Outstanding.
Matt Damon.
Outstanding.
Don Cheadle. I think all these people are in an Endgame too. Andy Garcia, Julia Roberts, and Ocean's 12 too, even like, there's a couple more, but Elliot Gould, Carl Reiner, shit ton of people in these movies. But
love it.
I thought that was when that first one came out, when Ocean's 11 came out, I was like, damn, that is crazy how many freaking people are in that movie. And that's a fun ass movie to watch
how did they make this movie happen? Like that's what I think. That's what I thought about with Endgame.
How could they afford all these people, right? Like how did they pay these people?
Like someone's getting a handshake deal here that they're
well, that was one of those first times. And I think Ocean's 11 was one of those first times where it was like, how did they pay all these people? And it was like, well, everybody just kind of wanted to make this movie because they knew it would be fun, and it's like, we can all get paid like, I don't know, $5 million and just have a really good time. And the thing with Endgame too, like and I know they did this for Robert Downey Jr. I don't know how many of them they did it for, but it was like percentages. Like we're going to pay you this percentage, right? And then when the movie makes $3 billion, you ended up making a check of 50 million.
Yeah,
which is insane.
I love it
for a movie. But anyway, that's my list.
I love that, and I think we picked our list just a smidgen different. You could call mine the top 5 star-studded cast movies that aren't Howie's list, because we don't have a single same movie on there.
Wow.
And I will say this, my movies, I did not pick from the standpoint of like the greatest movies of all time. These are movies that have like crazy stacked casts in them that I also love. Like these movies, I fucking love them. So,
okay.
I just was like, what was just a stacked star-studded cast movie that I freaking loved, and somehow this is what I ended up on. My honorable mention, I did have 2, which one of them you had gone over. I had Oppenheimer as an honorable mention because of all the things you said, every single character in there. And then the other one that I did have on my list originally, but I bumped back to honorable mention because I wanted to throw a different movie in the list. I had Inception as just a crazy cast. So, I mean, you got Leo, you got Cillian Murphy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hardy, Elliot Page, Ken Watanabe, Michael Caine. Like, the list goes on. That movie, and it's one of my favorite movies. I freaking love Inception, and that cast was crazy. So, and then let's jump into my number 5. I'm gonna pull all of these up just to go over the cast because a lot of them have more than I can remember off the top of my head, but they are just crazy. One of my favorite, maybe you wouldn't say it's everyone's star-studded cast, but for me, I thought it was. And any chance I can talk about this movie, my number 5 star-studded cast movie, Galaxy Quest. Man, this movie is full of freaking superstars. Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, Alan Rickman, Sam Rockwell, which we all love, Tony Shalhoub, I think is how you say his name, Monk, Justin Long, Rainn Wilson, and then just some other people that are, if you saw their faces, you would recognize them.
Right.
But Galaxy Quest is one of my favorite freaking movies of all time. It's so freaking good. So bad it's good. Number 5, Galaxy Quest. Number 4, Tropic Thunder. I had. So
that's a good
I
one.
feel like
I almost had that. I did.
It
was close.
I think more recently people are starting to like hate on it because like of Robert Downey Jr.'s character being wrong, but
it's the point. It was the point of the movie. That was the point.
It is. Listen to this cast for this movie: Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, Tom Cruise, Jay Baruchel, Steve Baruchel. There it is. Matthew McConaughey, Nick Nolte, Danny McBride, Bill Hader. Like, it just goes on. Tobey Maguire. It goes on and on. Yep. There's so many actors in this movie that are. John Voight's in the movie too, by the way. Jason Bateman's in the movie. Lance Bass, Martin Lawrence. There's a ton of people in that freaking movie. And it's so funny. I haven't watched that movie in a very long time, but it is one that we should probably circle back to sometime soon because it's fucking so hilarious.
It is good.
That's my number 4. Let's go to my number 3 movie. I had The Expendables 3. I know all of these movies are like star-studded cast, but this one felt like it was just an ode to all of the action stars of our childhood. Expendables 3, Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Mel Gibson, Wesley Snipes, Harrison Ford, Dolph Lundgren, Antonio Banderas, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jet Li, Kelsey Grammer, Terry Crews, Bruce Willis, Glenn Powell, Randy Couture, which no one would say that's a famous actor, but he was in the movie. Ronda Rousey, Mickey Rourke. Like, this movie is crazy. It's not the best movie ever, but it is fun to watch. Mila, the lady from Fifth Element, Mila
Jovovich.
What's Jovovich? She's
Resident
in it.
Evil.
Like, yeah, it's true. A lot of people know her from Resident Evil. I just immediately think of Fifth Element, but not necessarily like an amazing movie. But
no,
isn't it? Would you ever in the 90s or early 2000s think that half of those characters, an eighth of those characters or actors would ever be in the same movie? No. So that's, thank you, Sly, for giving us that, for putting every star action hero in one movie. And then my number 2 movie, which I feel like you and I have talked about before, that maybe you hadn't seen it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this movie I love. I don't think I've talked about it on the pod, but this movie came out in 2013. It's called Gangster Squad.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, have you? I thought I remember us talking about that. You hadn't seen it.
Nope, I've seen it.
Gangster Squad is a fucking cool movie. It's like set back in like the 1950s LA. It's basically about a gangster, a police force, like a rogue underground police force that's tasked to take down the mob. Ryan Gosling, Sean Penn, Josh Brolin, Emma Stone, Nick Nolte, Giovanni Ribisi, Michael Pena, Anthony Mackie, Robert Patrick. Shout out, he's about to have a good day with this episode. Holt McCallany, the guy
I
from,
love that dude.
He's so good. What's the show that we all love? Not Criminal Minds. It's the Netflix show that we all, Mind Hunters. I hear they're fighting to bring that back, but Holt McCallany's from that. See if there's anybody else in here that we recognize. Frank Grillo, he's in a lot of like action movies. He's kind of an MMA dude. But anyways, this movie is awesome. It checks all of my boxes.
Fun fact.
Say something about it?
Fun fact. Sean Penn plays Mickey Cohen in that movie. Yep. And Mickey Cohen is a real life Hollywood mobster. And he's actually the main plot point of LA Confidential.
I did know that, actually. And it's interesting because they are two very different like versions of the character.
Yeah, but he's kind of cartoonish in Gangster Squad, right?
Yeah, well, he's kind of like fucking terrifyingly, like he's like a cartoon villain.
He's over the top.
He's fucking scary. Right. But yeah, I fucking love that movie. If you've never seen Gangster Squad, I mean, freaking Ryan G is in it, Mr. Gosling, Bay himself with freaking Thanos, Josh Brolin. Hello, go see it. And then my number 1 movie, which I'm surprised you did not have this on your list. This cast is just crazy because it doesn't end. It goes on. And this is a movie that I loved as a kid. Maybe it didn't age well, and a lot of people probably hate it, but god damn is it a guilty pleasure that I should have had on my list the other week. Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks is effing stacked with actors. Yes. Why did you sigh? You're not a believer.
Bad movie. It's such a bad movie.
So bad. It's so bad. But listen. Oh, fucking classic. Listen to this cast. Jack Nicholson, Annette Bening, Jack Black, Danny DeVito, Lisa Marie, Glenn Close, Pierce Brosnan, Michael J. Fox, Sarah Jessica Parker, Lucas Haas, Natalie Portman, Martin Short, Sylvia Sidney, I don't know her, Christina Applegate, Tom Jones, Jim Brown, Ray J is in this movie. Paul Winfield. It goes Brian Haley.
It's probably the second most famous movie Ray J's been in.
I see what you did there.
Good night, everybody.
Giggity goo. Mars Attacks. I mean, honestly, actually, even John Bradley, which you won't really recognize the name of him, he is Sam in Game of Thrones. So apparently he was like a kid in the movie. So anyways, the movie doesn't end. The cast you could read all night because it's so freaking large. Mars Attacks. I may actually would have switched Gangster Squad with that, or potentially even like Tropic Thunder. Those all could be interchangeable, but that's I don't know. Nowhere near your list, but that's what I ended up with. And I had fun with that. I had a ton of fun with that list.
Good. Nice. I like it. I like your list. Those are all, I mean, they're all correct answers.
They're all like,
there is no incorrect answer. They're just,
I know when you're reading, as I listened to yours, I was like, oh, I should have went with like star-studded that all made like was just like Lord of the Rings easily. I had Two Towers at one point.
Yeah.
Like even some Star Wars stuff. But anyways,
I almost add like Batman Begins on there too. You know, like
yeah,
you think about it. Christian Bale,
yes,
Michael Caine, right? Katie Holmes,
Michael Caine,
Katie Holmes, Ken Watanabe.
The Christopher Nolan thing.
Yeah, he does. He just people want to just do shit for him, right? Like that's Liam Neeson.
Morgan
Freeman.
I almost put
Star
Howard. Wars Episode 1 because it's just like, oh my god, there's a lot of freaking amazing actors in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, love that. Now here's where we get bananas. We get off the wall. I watched a movie a couple weeks or like a weekend ago, and there was a scene in it that scratched my fancy. That I'm like, we need to do a list of this. This is our top 5 famous, memorable running scenes or foot chase scenes in a movie. So I don't know if it's the way you went, but maybe you went more like an actual foot chase. I went with just freaking memorable running scenes. So
I went with foot chases.
That's okay. I think mine, there might be one in there. I had 2 honorable mentions. So these are famous, memorable, like most epically famous running scenes. Honorable mention number 1, I had the foot chase from the Daniel Craig 007. I think it was Casino Royale.
It was the parkour scene.
Super parkour. I think that was kind of, they showed a little bit of it in the trailer, which is what got people really interested in the movie, and it was actually pretty fucking cool. Honorable mention number 1. Honorable mention number 2. You might not remember it until I jog your memory, but The Mummy Returns has a running scene in it where Rick O'Connell and his son, they have to run through the jungle and get to the pyramid before the sun goes down. Or then he ends up the bracelet, Anubis's bracelet will kill him. But like they're running through the jungle, things are fucking going in on them, and they literally like jump through before the shadows get to them. And I had it on my honorable mention because I knew when I said that you probably were not even going to remember the movie itself. Number 5, most famous running scene in a movie, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. We get the big 3, Gimli, Legolas, Aragorn. We all know the scene I'm talking about. They're sprinting across Middle Earth for all of time.
Half the movie.
Why Gimli tries to keep up in the background saying funny things. Number 5, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, famous running scene. Number 4, which it is painful to not have this higher on the list, but I had any and every Tom Cruise movie. The most famous runner of all, Tom Cruise, primarily the Mission Impossible movies, like Mission Impossible 3, where he's running,
Mhm.
jumping over buildings and stuff, and then Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, where he's running and like there's explosions going by him.
Is that the one with the sandstorm?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then also no, I think you're thinking of the Mummy movie. The Mummy is where there's like the big
No,
fucking
it's Mission Impossible.
there's like there there's a famous running one in the Mummy movie that we
yeah, I
all
know what you're
hate,
talking about, but
and
I'm talking about Mission Impossible.
every movie that he's in, there's running. Freaking Days of Thunder, he races at the end. It never ends. So number 4, that was a little bit not a specific movie, but I had
Yes.
to give Tom Cruise his fucking love in this thing. So,
Okay.
number 3, your favorite movie of all time, Forrest Gump. Michael Connor Humphreys is kid version of Forrest Gump. There's a scene, he's got these braces on his leg because his back is crooked as a question mark. And he takes off because these bullies are picking on him, chasing him with their bikes.
Throwing
And as he
rocks at
takes
him.
off, throwing fucking rocks at him. As he takes off, you get the slow-mo, and all of a sudden you see his freaking knees bending and his braces start breaking and exploding everywhere. And then the song kicks in. And he was running. One of the most famous running scenes and movies of all time. Run, Forrest, Run. Can't have him not on this list. Number 2, most iconic running scene, most memorable running scene from a movie, Rocky 1. Running through Philadelphia in his all gray suit. This was the second thing I put on because I created this list for my number 1. But I yelled into my house to Stephanie, my wife. I said, Stephanie, what's the most famous running scene in a movie? And she said the same thing. Rocky with his in gray sweatsuit in Philly. It's like perfect because that's how I feel.
Fly now.
Yes, the first Rocky montage is the greatest, one of the greatest running scenes ever. I will also put parentheses in there for Rocky 3, for when the beach run, when he's running on the beach with Apollo and they're racing each other and they're hugging in the water. Epic. My number 1, the reason we made this list, this is one of the greatest movies of all time, and I recently watched it randomly out of nowhere. Don't know why I decided to. I wanted to show my kids and realized I texted you immediately 10 minutes into the movie and I just said, this movie is a fucking masterpiece. I've seen it a million times, but it's a masterpiece. But there's a scene in it that's iconic. We're talking about the greatest running scene ever in a movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The T-1000, when he's chasing down freaking John Connor on a dirt bike. It's the greatest scene ever. This man is a world-class sprinter, Mr. Robert Patrick, or the T-1000. The behind the scenes, we learned that he used to practice running with his mouth closed so he could look like a robot in the scene. And another thing you pointed out, they had to do the scene multiple times because he was outrunning the dirt bike. It is one of the coolest running, chasing scenes ever. It kicks off one of the coolest, most famous chase scene in a movie ever with the T-1000 and Terminator and John Connor. Anyways, that's my number 1 running scene in a movie ever. There's probably a lot that I missed, and I think we had very different lists, but I just wanted to talk about this movie. So that's why I did this list.
I like it. I like your list. I like your running scenes. I did strictly foot chases. I did straight up somebody's chasing somebody else or they're running from somebody, right? Like that's the way I did foot chasing.
That's okay.
I don't have any honorable mentions. I just went with straight 5 because I didn't feel like I needed to talk about more than 5 foot chases. At number 5, I had the parking garage chase scene in Rumble in the Bronx.
Oh, dude. Fucking yes.
Jackie Chan's running through the fucking parking garage. He has to jump across the top, and he has to jump across the building. And Jackie Chan's a badass. It does all his own stunts, and it's awesome because everything he did in that is amazing. Yeah, and he broke his foot jumping on the. That was jumping on the hovercraft, though, was it? Wasn't it when he broke his foot?
No, he broke his foot doing the garage jump, and then the hovercraft jump. They made him a sock that looked like his shoe, but still, what a great movie, Rumble in the Bronx.
Yeah, fucking awesome.
Fucking awesome movie. Love that.
All right, at number 4, I had the chase scene from the bank robbery in Point Break.
Oh,
Johnny Utah is chasing the Ronald Reagan mask-wearing Patrick Swayze, and he gets him, and he's got him in his sights, and he can't shoot him. And that's when he does, and he gets away, and he does the, and he shoots up in the sky, and he's because he can't kill his buddy.
Yep.
In Point Break, but that's a pretty badass scene. At number 3, as you had mentioned, I had the chase scene from Terminator 2: Judgment Day.
Nice.
Now you have to admit that it really starts in the arcade when he chases him out of the arcade, and you get the Guns N' Roses, like the guns in the flower box in the hallway scene. God. Oh, and that's right before they get, that's before he gets away on the dirt bike. And then old T-1000 chases down a semi truck and yanks the driver out. And it turns into a fucking awesome vehicle chase scene after that.
It's so like some of the most iconic stunts, like live action stunts were in that chase, but that movie itself. It's been a while since I have blown your phone up while watching a movie. Right. And like throughout that movie, I was like pointing I can't believe this is a thing. Like it's one of the greatest movies of all time. People, if you haven't seen T2 in a long time, go watch it. It will send you down a rabbit hole of all of the other movies, like what I have done since that past week. It's so good. Terminator is awesome. Yeah, sorry, continue.
No, you're good. And I was thinking about that. I was actually thinking about this. I'm like, when we were doing Zack Snyder last week, I was thinking, I'm like, we started talking about Terminator. I don't remember when that was. Was that last week or whatnot? And then I talked about Terminator 3. And what could you imagine doing a top 5 James Cameron movies? Like, do you know how fucking hard that's going to be?
Dude. Yeah. He's got 5 movies and all 5 of them are fucking amazing.
I mean, like the top 5, it's all going to be based on your taste.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like, cause his top 5 includes 5 movies that are often considered like for some reason or another or just greatest movies of all time. Right. Yeah. Like, anyway, that's crazy. But all right. So number 2, I had the parkour chase scene from Casino Royale at number 2.
Oh,
that scene's like mind fucking blowing when you watch it. And it like kicks that movie off. Like you watch that movie and when it starts and then that happens and you're like, holy shit, this movie's nuts already. And it just started. Yeah. And then he just fucking shoots the dude after he catches up to him. And that's just like, you're like, what? The whole scene's just, it's bananas.
It's very much, this is not your grandpa's 007. Like that's
bingo.
What that scene
you didn't know what you were getting into until, and then that scene happens and you're like, holy shit, this is going to be bonkers. And then at number 1, I actually had the end chase scene with Neo in the Matrix.
Oh, I saw that on lists.
Oh God, he's running. And I was thinking, and it wasn't high up on a lot of lists, but I was thinking, I'm like, there's not a lot of chase scenes where he's out running somebody and then they're fucking there because they took over somebody else's body and now they're chasing him from in front. That scene's so fucking bananas. And then he gets to the phone and they finally catch him and they just fill him full of bullets. And like everybody's like, oh shit. And then that's when he realizes
in real life.
And then that's when he realizes that he sees everything in fucking zeros and ones and he becomes the one, right? Like, but that scene is
uncomfortable because it's high tension where you're like, oh my God, anyone is going to turn into freaking Agent Smith and take him out.
That movie. And I was thinking about that scene and I'm like, that whole freaking movie like, I need to watch it. I haven't watched it in a long time. And I just, after watching, we were talking about the fourth one that didn't need to happen and how they're talking about making a fifth one. Like, I need to go back and watch that first one just because it was so fucking awesome.
It was a phenomenon when I was like a kid or in high school or in elementary school or junior high. When 2 came out, it made 1 way cooler, and like I liked 2 and 3. I know a lot of people didn't, but
I like
people love
I
number
like the
1.
trilogy. I like the trilogy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We've talked about that on the pod. There's some good games that go with it too, but love
Mm-hmm.
that super iconic chase scene. Yeah, I'm not very different list, but I
Yeah, but
agree with
totally.
yours.
And I went with straight foot chases, and I just, because I probably would have done that anyway, just even if I'd have thought about running, because it's like, why is somebody running and fucking getting chased?
I saw freaking the T1000 do the sprinting, and then I listened to like a behind the scenes interview specifically about that scene, and it made me think like who who is who is training for a movie to
Right.
run with their mouth closed so they look more like a robot. And then that made me think
And
like, all right, what other movies is
he
running like
did the
they got
hand
to
thing
get that
too.
scene right.
He's
Yes.
running fucking palms wide open, and it was,
Yes.
he was a robot,
He
and we were.
looked like the fastest thing on the planet.
He did. And he's so weird looking and scary at the same time. And I was thinking about this. I texted you because I watched Terminator 3 because we had talked about it on the podcast. And I was like, I'm going to rewatch Terminator 3. It is better than I remember. It does seem like they tried too hard in a lot of things. The bad guys is not interesting. That's, I think, the biggest issue. Arnold's actually great again in that movie. They gave him some dumb dialogue. Like when they did like the Hasta La Vista baby thing in T2 didn't feel stupid. But like the talk to the hand, that's stupid. Like that was dumb. Or
Super
the
lame.
part where like he goes to the bar and he like gets his clothes, not from beating up a biker, but he gets it from like a gay stripper. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. They just kind of, they tried to be too goofy in that movie. But some of the action scenes, like you were talking about, you even mentioned it before I even said it, but the crane scene where the crane gets dropped into the manhole cover and it just fucking flips it. Like that whole scene's, it is pretty badass. So
Yeah.
it's better than I remembered it, but at the same time, it still has its issues. Totally.
For
But
sure.
anyway,
There's
just wanted to say
that scene is super cool. And Arnold Terminator when he's
in
at
the cemetery.
Like the cemetery, he's holding like a casket full of guns and the person.
Totally. Even that's
kind of
great.
a cool scene.
The scene at the towards the end where they're in the like army base where Skynet takes over and all the like T1s are there, like, and that whole that's it's actually pretty badass. But it didn't lean into the R rating like T2 did. So it felt like it was on the verge of being PG-13. Like they could have cut out less than 2 minutes of it, and I think they would have been PG-13.
Yeah.
Whereas in like T2, you've got like fucking Robert Patrick's like turning knives and he's fucking stabbing the dude drinking the milk carton in the face. Like, dude, that's awesome.
It's brutal.
There's brutal
even moments in that movie.
And it's cartoony, but even the scene where Arnold cuts his arm, degloves his arm to show that he's a cyborg, like that's brutal, but it's amazing.
Yes, I mean, even at the end when his Terminator gets broken down into like missing an arm and his face is all taken off, like that movie is fucking epic. The amount of cool action that happened in that movie, the helicopter flying, like actually flying under a freeway overpass, like they really blew up an office building. Like it's so cool.
They talked. I saw something. There was an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and it was talking about I think he was on Kimmel or something like that. And I don't know how old the interview was. I just like came across it on social media, but he was talking about perfect movies that are perfect. Doesn't matter. Like, might not be your favorite thing, might not be your cup of tea, but it's a perfect movie. Terminator 2 is a perfect movie.
Perfect movie.
There's nothing wrong with it. The performances, the cinematography, special effects obviously were groundbreaking. the music, the story, everything. It's a perfect movie.
Yeah. There's a very lengthy behind the scenes like documentary. You can watch it on YouTube. That's just behind the scenes of the making of that movie, and you get a lot of stuff from James Cameron. Like you said, the thought and the effort and the money and just everything that went into making it. It's James Cameron was treating it like he was making the best movie of all time, and pulled out all of the stops for it. So good. I don't know how we got on talking about Terminator, but
because that was what created your
list.
chase scene. Like, anyway, that takes us to the end of episode 47 of the Movie Dads podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, click the like and subscribe, click that bell, leave us a comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. If you're not listening to us on YouTube, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and other podcast services. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're back next week, episode 48, big premiere movie of the week, something we've both been looking to very forward to, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, next week.
Bring it on.
We'll see you then. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you next time.
Bye.